So many people focus on that 80 to 90% of the mindset in business is quote unquote bad, or it's where, and this is true. So it's not wrong. It's just, I feel like people are focusing on the wrong part, right? People are like, oh yeah, 80% mindset, because you have to focus on your limiting beliefs and you have to focus on all the garbage thoughts and you have to focus on basically on getting rid of all this stuff. And at what point does it become too exhausting? Hello and welcome to Chaos to Clarity, the podcast that's your compass to navigate the exciting world of service-based businesses. If you're a determined woman in your current business adventure, striving to conquer the chaos and build your empire, then you are in the right place. I'm your host, Maggie, your go-to business bestie and chaos navigator. I've spent nearly 2 decades in the service-based industry, building a photography business, a yoga studio, and now a thriving coaching practice. I've cracked the code to consistent income without all the chaos and noise. So get ready to increase your business growth, connect with your ideal clients, and find ease in both business and in life. It's time to turn your frustrations into inspiration and your chaos into clarity. So go ahead and grab your coffee, a pen and paper, and let's dive into the journey of building your dream service-based business together. Are you ready? Let's go. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Chaos to Clarity podcast. My name is Maggie. I am your host and your Chaos to Clarity coach. I am here today, and I'm just going to get right into it, to talk about mindset in business. Now, if you have been in business for any amount of time, and maybe more specifically in the coaching space, you've probably heard at least one person say, business is 80% mindset and 20% data or 20% numbers. And yes, I fully believe this. Business is 80, I would even venture to say maybe even closer to 90% mindset. And here is something that no one talks about. Okay, when people say business is 80 to 90% mindset, they go in and they are talking about 80% of the mindset being all of the bad stuff. And I don't think people are doing this on purpose. Okay, I don't think people are intentionally wanting this to be like, oh my gosh, business is 80% mindset and here's what you're doing wrong, right? But here's what I've noticed. So many people focus on that 80 to 90% of the mindset in business is quote unquote bad, or it's where, and this is true. So it's not wrong. It's just, I feel like people are focusing on the wrong part, right? People are like, oh yeah, 80% mindset, because you have to focus on your limiting beliefs and you have to focus on all the garbage thoughts and you have to focus on basically on getting rid of all this stuff. And at what point does it become too exhausting to know that 80% of your business is up in your brain, right? 80% of your quote unquote success or failure can depend on your mindset. Now, I had a really interesting conversation the other day as I was recording a podcast for an upcoming interview, and we were talking about business and mindset and some of the things that go along with a business mindset, and just like your mindset in general. And we were talking about, limiting beliefs and garbage thoughts. And if you're not sure what garbage thoughts are, they're basically just limiting beliefs, but they're the thoughts that kind of just chatter in the back of your mind as you're doing stuff, right? So you're doing things for your business and you're like, oh, I don't know if this is great or not, or, oh, I'm not sure if this will work, but I'm going to try it anyway. Or, that little voice in the back of your head going, are you sure that's going to work? Are you sure that's what you want to do? Right? Things like that. So we get really caught up in the negative. And here's where mindset really comes into play. And this is something that if you are in business and if you are even having, I would venture to say, even just like an ounce of doubt in yourself, here are a few things that I love to do to help me I'm not going to say erase the doubt, because erasing doubt never happens. And if people tell you that you need to just always be positive in business, that is a load of crap. And I mean that in a kind and loving way. But you can't always have happiness, right? You have to have the good and the bad, because if you don't have those opposites, right? And I believe that they can exist at the same time, right? I can be excited in my business, but also be fearful. I can be happy in my business, but also be sad, right? I can have both of those things. And I think as humans, really, that is like some of the complexity of our nature, right? Of our being, is that we can feel more than one thing at one time. But this is what I want you to remember about mindset in business, is that number one, you have the power to shift. You have the power to shift away from whatever it is that's coming up for you. So case in point, I, over the last few weeks, have been feeling sorry for myself because I'm not meeting my quote unquote goals. And in not meeting these goals, I have been not silently tearing myself down, but just I've felt very irritated and frustrated with myself. Now, if you're into human design at all, you'll know that, well, I'm a manifesting generator. And our like signature not self theme, so when I'm not feeling myself, or feeling like myself, I should say, I get frustrated. That is like one of the first things that I go to is frustration. And as I've been bringing more and more human design, and just really like overall, I guess like an oomph to my business, right? Like just tuning into more of what I am, because newsflash, PSA, if you are a coach or if you are in the service field, right? Yoga teacher, massage therapist, Reiki practitioner, yoga teacher, yoga studio owner, a lot of your business and a lot of your mindset actually comes with kind of dealing with and understanding all of your inner feelings and workings. Okay. And once you kind of start to tap into that, whether you're into human design, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, any of the things, right? Like once you kind of start to understand yourself, and again, maybe you're not into any of that stuff, but again, I'm going back to this point of when you can tap in and understand yourself and your feelings, you will often be able to work through all of these garbage thoughts, all of these limiting beliefs so much faster, right? And you'll allow yourself to have more inspiration, right? Inspiration, gratitude, all of those opposite things from all of the limiting beliefs, the garbage thoughts, the Debbie Downers, right? So this is something that nobody talks about, is that yes, business is 80 to 90% mindset. And so many people focus on the bad mindset. Well, when you start talking about bad things, your mind goes to bad things, right? Somebody's talking about limiting beliefs, then you're like, man, oh yeah, I have those beliefs. Oh my gosh, woe is me. I am terrible, blah, blah, blah. All of those things. But when you start talking about getting inspired or getting clarification or getting like amped up and excited in your business, that's where the magic starts to happen, right? Because yes, limiting beliefs are always going to be there. They're always going to be there. No matter what monetary level you are at in business, there will always be limiting beliefs. There will always be garbage thoughts. There will always be that little voice in the back of your head going, are you sure this is right? You sure you want to do that? And here's the best part is that you get to decide how loud that voice is, right? You get to decide if that voice is at a 10 or if that voice is maybe at a 5 or even maybe that voice is turned down to a 1. Okay, you get to decide that. And I think there's so many people that talk about mindset, and they talk about the limiting beliefs, and they talk about getting rid of the limiting beliefs, working through all the things, blah, blah, blah. Yes, good, great. And how about we start focusing on the good stuff, right? Because mindset is both limiting beliefs and inspiration. But what if we can lean into the inspiration, the clarity, and leave the chaos and limiting beliefs behind? Right? What if we can do that? What would happen? Can you imagine what would happen and how things could shift in your life, in your business, if you turn down the volume on limiting beliefs? And maybe that's just 0.25% today. Because turning down limiting beliefs, turning down all of the things you've currently been thinking for a long time, it is change, right? And change can be scary, but change can also be exhilarating, right? One of the things that one of my yoga teachers, one of my very first teachers, said to me and said to the whole class was, excitement and fear have the same body sensations, right? The only difference is that you are giving it a name, right? So fear in the body kind of invokes those same like butterflies in the stomach. Maybe you start to get goosebumps or nervous or things like that. But excitement can also do that same thing, right? You can also get goosebumps. You can also get that butterflies in the stomach. But it really depends on what the thing is that you're focused on, right? So what if you could shift into inspiration? What if you started doing that right now? What if you started shifting into clarity right now? Even if you're uncertain, even if your brain is going, yeah, I don't think this is going to work. What is one thing, just one thing, right? Changing one thing that you can do right now to shift into that belief of this is possible. I can do this. I am doing this. I'm setting my eyes forward. I'm not paying attention to all my past mistakes because really the mistakes are what helped you get to right here, right now. And those mistakes, I would argue that they're not really mistakes, right? They're just stepping stones to get you to where you want to be. And something someone recently asked me was, do you regret doing what you've done over the last 16 years? Is there anything you regret? And, meaning in the past 16 years, right, I opened my photography business. I bought a yoga studio. I grew that yoga studio. I grew the photo business, right? I had 2 kids. I closed the yoga studio. And now I've opened this coaching business. And someone asked me, well, is there anything you regret? And I said, no, I wouldn't be who I am today without all of that in my past. It's part of my story. It's part of me. And have I been maybe scared or anxious or just kind of wondered what people would think when I would tell my story? Yeah, yes. But at the same time, it's my story, right? It's my story and it's my history, right? It's so cool to me that I've been able to now grow 3 businesses. Like, who gets to do that? That's so amazing. And that's where this mindset comes in, right? I could let the fact that I grew a photo studio and then I decided kind of hastily, right? I really only took a day or 2 to decide that I was going to buy a yoga studio. I bought a yoga studio, jumped in, not knowing a thing, right? I didn't know how to run a yoga studio. I knew how to teach classes and I'd been kind of managing the studio, but I didn't know like the inner workings of a yoga studio. But I did it anyway. I jumped in and I thought, you know what? I will learn. There will be people who are willing to help me. There will be people who are willing to teach me. And there were. And they showed up. Now, were there times where I doubted my abilities? And, right, were there times where I doubted everything? 1,000,000%. Yes. I am not immune to these thoughts, right? I am not immune to limiting beliefs. I am not immune to all the garbage thoughts, to the, crappy thoughts that go on in the back of my head wondering, was this a good idea? right? I'm also not immune to thinking, oh my gosh, I'm switching this thing again. What are people going to think? But here's the thing. If you're thinking, oh, I can't say this out loud, or I can't post this here, I can't post this there, why? Right? If you're worried about whatever so-and-so down the street is going to think, quite honestly, they probably aren't going to know. They probably aren't going to see it. And if they do, and if they don't like it, well, tough. It's your life, not theirs. And it's their opinion, not yours. Right? Everyone is entitled to an opinion. And if it doesn't match with yours, it's not a big deal. That's fine. They can have that opinion. But when you are true to yourself, when you tap into your potential, that is where the change starts to happen. That's where chaos shifts into clarity. That's where limiting beliefs shift into inspiration, right? That's where you find this like golden pathway of amazingness. So I'm going to wrap this up here because I have more thoughts. So I'm going to make a second part to this. And I can't wait to go into this a little bit deeper because I think dealing with limiting beliefs, but also opening up to the power of inspiration is such a fun topic. So make sure you tune in next week because that is what is going to drop next week. We're going to talk all about inspiration and how you can start to shift from limiting beliefs to inspiration, right? Shifting from chaos to clarity, and a little bit more of maybe a little bit of behind the scenes of how I help clients shift out of chaos and step into clarity. Okay, that is all for now, my friends. If you loved this episode, I would appreciate a rate, a review, a like, a heart, a share, a download, any of that. All of that stuff helps me keep going in this journey of podcasting. I love what I've been able to build, and I can't wait to connect with you more.